Welcome to another episode of the Bandage Podcast, a weekly wrap-up of the most trending healthcare news. Each week, we'll discuss the latest in healthcare, health IT, and compliance.
In this week's episode, we discuss drug-resistant ringworms now in America, genetically engineered cancer-fighting bacteria, and the WHO warning against artificial sweeteners. Let's wrap things up. This is episode 186 for the week of May 22nd. I'm Matt Moneypenny.
And I'm Albert Bettistilli.
Before we get started, our diagnosis code of the week is Y34 or unspecified event, undetermined intent.
What?
What does that even mean?
That's the vaguest, nondescript thing I've ever heard.
Something happened. We don't know.
Yeah, something. No idea why. No idea.
It just happened. Whatever.
Great. Unspecified event, undetermined intent.
Well, I do know something that is specified, and it is that their first story is touchdown at home.
Okay.
A 15-year-old drug-resistant species of ringworm has made its way to the United States. According to a dermatologist in New York City, 2 patients have endured cases of trichophyton and dodonate on U.S. soil. A CDC report details 2 domestic cases. The first involves a 28-year-old woman who hadn't traveled outside the country and hadn't knowingly made direct contact with anyone with a similar rash. She finally got rid of the rash by completing a 4-week course of oral antifungal medication called itraconazole. The second case involves a 47-year-old woman believed to have contracted the ringworm during a 2020 trip to Bangladesh. It's still unknown whether the woman's case was ever resolved. A CDC report was written. She was being considered for treatment alongside her husband and son, who'd contracted similar rashes. Whoa, I don't even know what that means. Drug-resistant ringworm, what do you do?
I guess you take a 4-week course of antifungal medication?
I guess. That sounds terrible.
Itraconazole?
Traveling across the world is great, but
be
also,
careful.
Right? Whoopsies.
It's a gross world out there.
It is gross out there.
Lots of diseases, lots of bacterias.
Lots of nasties out there.
Lots of nasties, yeah. All right, next up, cancer-fighting ally. Scientists in China are hoping to turn E. coli bacteria into a cancer-fighting ally. In a new study, they describe their creation of genetically engineered E. coli strains that can kill different types of tumors in mice. More studies will be needed, but the authors believe that bacterial therapy for cancer can become a reality. Their new study describes the development of 2 E. coli strains genetically engineered to fight cancer. One strain, called MP105, is designed to target a variety of different cancer types and can be delivered intravenously. It's also intended to survive for only a very short time, hours at most, which should limit its potential to harm non-cancerous cells. The second strain, called M6001, is designed to live longer and seek out solid tumors by sensing and moving away from glucose. These tumors tend to be deprived of glucose. Ideally, this means that it could be delivered directly to the tumor site without safety issues.
Well, glucose. Glucose.
Who knew that something as bad as E. coli could be used to potentially cure cancer?
Yeah, that is wild. It's combating, fighting disease with disease, I guess. I never thought of that as even an option, but it makes sense.
Right. It's like we're going to fix your heart condition, but you're going to have to deal with mad cow disease for a minute.
So, this is not a big deal, but you're going to feel a little fuzzy for a minute or two. Right. But things will be back to normal eventually, we think.
Right. Your sore throat's going to go away, but you might have a UTI for a day. We're just trading things off at this point.
Yeah, go ahead and eat this Chipotle burrito and contract E. coli, and then it'll fight your cancer. Very interesting. Next up, dangers of processed sugar. The World Health Organization, or WHO, on Monday warned against using artificial sweeteners to control body weight or reduce the risk of non-communicable diseases, saying that long-term use is not effective and could pose health risks. These alternatives to sugar, when consumed long-term, do not serve to reduce body fat in either adults or children. The WHO said in a recommendation, adding that continued consumption could result in the risk of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and mortality in adults. The WHO recommendation is based on a review of available evidence, the agency said, and is part of a set of guidelines for healthy diets being rolled out. This is like not really news.
No, it's just something
It's like
I think
a reminder.
Right. I will say I read this the other day, and it did dissuade me from buying a Diet Dr. Pepper at the grocery store.
Whoa.
I saw this online earlier that day, and I was like about to. And even though in my brain I've always known this, before it was like whatever, out of sight, out of mind. But because it had just freshly been on my mind, I like ignored the Diet Dr. Pepper and walked away.
Holy smokes! You just denied 23 flavors. That's
no
crazy.
artificial sweeteners for me.
Wow, that takes a lot of guts. Denying 23 flavors because of artificial sweeteners.
It was hard. I'm not gonna lie.
Walking away from Flavor Town. What is it? Fanville? Yeah, Fanville.
Whatever it is. I did. I walked away. I sprinted away. It was very difficult.
Well, out of mind, maybe the WHO knew that was the case, and they were like, "Hey, we need to remind people of this."
Right. Every few months, we're going to put out this report.
Yeah. By the way, it's still bad for you. Turns out, no surprises here, but here you go. Here's another report. And with that, let's go to our next segment.
BREACH, Breach Patrol. It's a breach! All of the latest cybersecurity breaches.
Welcome to Breach Patrol, talking about the latest breaches all across the world. What do we got?
All right, transporting the data. The personal information of 237,000 current and former federal government employees has been exposed in a data breach in the U.S. Transportation Department. The breach hit systems for processing TransServe transit benefits that reimburse government employees for some commuting costs. It was not clear if any of the personal information had been used for criminal purposes. The department is investigating the breach and has frozen access to the transit benefit system until it has been secured and restored.
U.S. Department of Transportation, huh? Wow.
Yeah. That's a big one. Yeah.
Government entities, man, I tell you what, they keep getting breached because the government is slow and cybersecurity is fast.
That's so true.
And they just don't work that way. It just don't.
They're not on the same speed, man. They need to set up their watches.
They should reset their watches they should reset their watches for sure. I don't know how else to expand upon it. I guess if you work for them, watch out.
Watch out.
Speaking of watching out, our next story is pharmacists at risk too. Pharmacies at risk too. Pharmerica is a pharmacy service provider in the United States, operating 800 local and 70,000 backup pharmacies and serving 3,100 medical facilities nationwide. According to a data breach notification submitted to the Office of the Maine Attorney General, hackers breached Pharmerica's system on March 12, 2023, stealing the full names, addresses, dates of birth, social security numbers, medications, and health insurance information of 5.8 million people. The firm discovered the intrusion on March 14, 2023, and its investigation determined on March 21st that client data had been stolen. However, notices of a data breach were sent to impacted individuals only last Friday, May 12, 2023.
That's a while.
Whoa.
For a minute, they waited a little bit.
It took them 2 months to figure out and be like, hey, we should probably notify people. It's a long time to notify people. I mean,
that's a long time.
I think you have 90 days, so it's within reach of the notification, I believe. So I think they're okay. Yeah. But it doesn't really say, I mean, I guess, 5.8 million people, that's bad.
That's not great. Yeah, that's a large amount.
That's a huge, and it's pharmacies. So now, I mean, they got all the prescriptions that these people take and their medical information. So, whoopsie daisies.
Whoops, not great.
What are they going to do with that information? They're going to sell on the dark web or they're going to steal the identity and fuel illegal drug trade.
Right. So either way, those aren't good outcomes. You don't want that.
That's why the pharmacies are so, I guess they're strict. They've got strong cybersecurity.
Sure. Well, they should.
Yeah, why not?
All right. And finally, we've got Toyota too. Over 2 million Toyota vehicle owners in Japan are potentially at risk from a data breach at the company that was left exposed for 10 years. The problem started in November 2013 and was rectified only in April of 2023. According to Toyota, an error was made in setting the cloud-based system to public instead of private. The company has claimed to have blocked outside access to the data, followed by an investigation into all cloud environments of Toyota Connected Corp. The breach has exposed details such as identification numbers of vehicles and real-time vehicle locations. However, the company has stated that there has been no malicious use of the data yet. Bum, bum, bum.
Not yet. 2 million Toyota vehicle owners in Japan specifically.
Right? That's a lot.
Interesting. 2 million's a lot.
That's a lot
Japan's
of people.
a small country. Didn't know that, I always forget how big or how small Japan is and how many people live there.
Right?
It's so densely packed. It's just like,
It
whoa,
is.
this
They're packed in there, man.
is not fun.
How do they even have room to drive Toyotas?
I don't even know. Is this a part of the Toyota-thon event?
There's like Toyota, they're like little scooters, I bet. They're like Toyota scooters. It's just as vehicle owners, not car owners.
That's true. They could be little, what are they called? Vespas. They could be riding around on Vespas.
Toyota Vespa. Still.
Little Vespa life.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
Either way, not great.
And that's it for this week's wrap-up of your weekly healthcare news. I'm Matt Money Tank.
And I'm Albert Battistelli.
And we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Bandage Podcast produced by eTactics.